morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. Don't give me copyright flag though.
No. You can cut this out.
I sounded like a zombie.
Oh.
Just.
Yeah, in order to grow, you gotta have like some kind of goals.
Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. Whatever time you're listening in, wherever you're listening from, you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here right now. Let's take a moment to be present and recognize that it's now, right now. Whether your right now is working, running, driving, flying, recording a podcast, be thankful we're alive, baby. Failure can be frightening. However, as Winston Churchill reminds us, success is all about going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. This is I Will Not Lose podcast, where we prove everything is learned from failure. We must recognize it as one step closer to success. I have a man who has gone through tons of trials and tribulations in his story of perseverance. That's why I wanted to have him on and share his story as well as his creations that he's done. We've got Mr. Ron Speakman, host of the Fed Up podcast, almost 35,000 downloads, and he's been doing it less than a year. 2,000 of those downloads came in the past week. So this is the official announcement. This was all organic growth. This was all just creating it, hard work, and creating good content. So we're going to get to know the man behind the mic. Tune in.
Hey, it's good to be here, Tone. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, bro.
Yes, sir, man. I see you're doing your thing too. Keep going, man.
Yeah, man. Perseverance, no matter what you're doing it, whether your endeavors are podcasting or even just at your job, you know? So
yes, sir.
We'll get a little bit into the Fed Up podcast, but I wanted to go back and get the story of you. Fed Up is built on a lot of principles, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Main principles are structure, discipline, and accountability. You hear me talk a lot about those things. But that's not just for the podcast. I think that's three important principles for us all as human beings to have. Without structure, discipline, and accountability, I don't think none of us can be shit within our lives, whether it be personal or professional.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So go on structure a little bit. What does that mean for you?
Structure means for me is having a routine, but also having the adaptability to improvise with that routine. Because sometimes you have stuff that comes in that you can't control. However, you can control what you can control, and that's how you act, how you react, whatever the case is. So, but try to have a routine business-wise or for your personal life.
Yeah, no, I can relate with that 100%. When I started switching my routine up, I make a personal routine for myself, even being an entrepreneur. You know, there's things I do every day at the same time, and that helps a lot. And that you got to be disciplined. It's crazy because those tie right into each other. You know, if you're not disciplined, you can't have structure.
I mean, I think Mike Tyson said it best. Discipline is doing something that you hate to do, but do it like you love it. Point blank. And don't forget about consistency too, right? Discipline and structure will kind of help give you that consistency. That's why I don't really talk about consistency, because that'll play out on its own if you have discipline, structure, and accountability.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That accountability thing, that's a big one for a lot of people. Everybody, I don't even want to say just claims to be the victim, but a lot of people don't look at what their part was in a problem. Mm-hmm. Like, even if you allow a problem to happen to you, is your fault for allowing it sometimes.
Absolutely, 100%. And let's not forget about the uncomfortable conversations that we all have to have. To first recognize there's a problem going on, you have to have those uncomfortable conversations with others, or even with yourself for that matter, to recognize there's a problem before you can actually bring a solution to the table.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So these three principles, were you always that way? Was that instilled in you early, or where did that come from?
I think that was always with me. I just didn't know it at that time as a kid growing up. You know, when you go through things as a kid, you just do things. You don't take it. When we look back in hindsight, we're like, that's why I did that. That's why I acted the way I acted, right? But when we do things as kids, I don't think we realize what we're doing, positive or negative, right? Until we get older. And then when we reflect on that, that's when we see the positive or negative that happened.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
That reflection's a huge part.
It's got to be a huge part. Without it, we can't grow.
Yeah, man. So take us back to the beginning. You know, when did you really start on the path to instill this mentality? I mean, you have somewhat of a structure that's given to you by school and things like that when
Sure.
you're a kid, and then once you leave that, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
where'd you go from there?
So for me, it was, I've been through stuff through the time I was born to 7 years of age that no child should experience. And this is no way by any means a pity party, any kind of thing. Listen, I don't have no regrets in my life whatsoever, but what happened to me, it is what it is. We talk about turning negatives into positives. And again, I think I did that a lot growing up, as some of us do, without knowing it until later on we get it in life. Like for instance, I mean, I grew up in the foster care system. Before I even got to that point, you know, my real parents, we were poorest of the poor, right? Public housing, we didn't even have that. There's times where I can look back and remember when I was actually living under a tent. For those of you familiar in Allentown, by Parquettes, right? There used to be that spot right there that they fenced off. I remember being in that spot once in a while as well. Before obviously that was fenced off and stuff. But just from those hard times, not knowing where your next meal is going to come from, eating out garbage cans, wearing the same clothes over and over. Obviously, your hygiene takes a hit, right? So I had to endure a lot. Even, physical abuse, mental abuse. There's a lot of stuff that played out that I overcame and endured. You know what I'm saying? So that made me who I was back then without even knowing it, because I had to do what I had to do. And then, you know, growing up, obviously, a lot of fights, a lot of, I was pretty much the minority where I grew up. So there was obviously a lot of fist fighting. Had to become headstrong right away. I think that's another key part. I think people are too sensitive today. People are too passive aggressive as well. We mentioned about talking about problems and issues. That's what adults do. We talk about problems. You know what I'm saying? If you feel some type of way because someone called you out on your shit, that seems like a self-confidence issue at that point. Maybe you need to do some self-reflecting and see where you can grow, where you can mature at. Don't be mad because someone's trying to help you get to that point. And that was part of my problem growing up as well. I took it the wrong way. Now I take it like a grain of salt. But you got to recognize it's a problem before you can fix it, man. But yeah.
Well, kudos to you, man. I'll just stop right there, man.
I appreciate it.
Well done to be able to come out of that, create a beautiful family, beautiful legacy, so you were, as I was listening to, we'll get into the work that I helped with Fed Up, but as I'm listening to the first episode, you explained some things that you had to do with the youth.
Yes. So I helped run boot camps for adjudicated youth from all over the country. And let me tell you, one of the most humbling experiences I ever had. Naturally, I've been through everything in the book. We didn't cover a lot here, but I didn't. If you want to, that's fine too. I have no problem talking about it. But I actually went to the police academy, graduated the 83rd class in Allentown. I could never get on any police agency, right? I couldn't get on any department. I was third or second place a couple of times, could never crack the top list. So I was like, you know what? I still want to do something. So I already had my my associate's degree. So I was going to get my bachelor's, and I went into criminal justice side of things on the juvenile side. And when we had people from like Baltimore, Philly, very few here in Allentown, but from all over the country, Virginia. So it was rewarding, but yet humbling for me, man, because I could relate to a lot of their problems. That's probably what made me great at doing what I did. And I always joke around when I see one of them every now and then if I'm out in their city, because it does happen. You will run into people eventually. And I believe that, listen, you got to treat people fairly, man. I don't hold grudges, but at the same time, someone may hold a grudge against you if you don't have their best interests at heart, and I don't know about you or anybody else out there, but for me, I think it's important not to have to look over your shoulder constantly.
Yeah.
So
that feels great.
It feels great. But are you going to make everybody happy? No, you're not going to. It's just, But again, that comes down to the factor of control what you can, not what you can't. Someone doesn't like you, that's not your problem. control what you can, which is your actions, your attitude, right? Have an attitude of being, have an attitude of gratitude,
Right.
and help those around you. And I think they realize that. I mean, we always joked over there where I'm going to ask you this question. What's a greater motivator, fear or respect?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. I mean, I go towards respect. I go towards earning respect. So
Sure.
I guess I'd have to lean towards that one. I don't know if
Yeah.
I'm doing it wrong, but
There is no right or wrong answers. What you or the audience out there thinks. So I would choose respect too. But take it to just if you had a job working with adjudicated youth, right?
Mhm.
I always ask some of the kids, and they would say fear. I would ask some of the employees there, fear or respect. People would go respect. So I think fear in that aspect was a greater motivator. Let me explain.
For them, that makes sense.
Let me explain. It's not in a negative way, right? I don't want people to get the wrong impression. But you can have people respect you, yet there's a fear there that if I fuck up, I'm going to be held accountable. Ron, they call me S. S is going to hold me accountable for if I mess up here, right? That's what I mean by it. Fear is a greater motivator in that aspect. But fear and respect can also be one of the same, right? So it all depends on what situation you're in, what the circumstance is, to lean towards either side of the fence there with that. But it was both rewarding and humbling for me. And so many stories, man. So many stories. But yeah, that's what structure, discipline, and accountability, I tied that in with that as well. And we had the camp rules. And then I would actually have 3 rules myself for everybody, because I would have the new kids come in, the new clients come in. I hate using that word. They're young men.
Yeah, right.
Young men are coming in here who made a mistake. They're not bad people. They made a mistake like we all made. So yeah, we would come in and I would explain the rules to them, and like, now here's my 3 rules. And I being through everything, I kind of knew what they were dealing with, because I get to read the case files coming in. I have the intake with them, get to know them better. They get to know me better. And listen, I want to say this real quick. Kids ain't stupid. These young men are not stupid. They know within the first 30 seconds of you being with you, around you, whether you open your mouth or not, if you're a real one or not. You understand? If they're going to get over on you, or they're going to be like, yo, I got to check myself. I got to watch myself with this guy. You know what I mean? They're not dumb. So let's give them all the credit in the world. People think like they have no, they're dumb or whatever the case is. They're not dumb. They observe their surroundings. They're coming from a surrounding where they got to watch regardless. These inner city youth are coming in here, so give them the respect, because if not, they're going to see right through you. Be who you are. They're going to see right through you if you're not. But I would have them come in and I would explain everything to them. And it was funny. It got to the point where when one would be discharged, leaving, they would be like in Philly, for instance, and they would be sitting there getting discharged. Another young man would be coming in, and he would cross paths, and I would get brought up. Oh, you going to this place? Oh, yo, my man S, that's my old head. Watching him, this and that. So they kind of knew about me to the point where when they got there, they already knew who I was. So it was pretty cool to watch that grow and unfold. The impact that I've made. Are there some out there who didn't like me? I'm sure there are. But for the most part, it was nothing but love and respect, because I treated them like young men. I didn't treat them like a client or a little kid. We addressed everybody as sir. You understand? That's a respect issue, right? Especially our youth today. I feel like there's no more respect today. And you can't, I'm not going to sit there and point the finger at parenting. We don't know the situations behind each of these young men's lives, but treat them with respect. And the biggest thing is you'll most likely get the same in return, but you also got to remember they're young men. They're not as mature. They didn't level up to where you're at. So you also got to keep that in mind. So, but one of my rules was, because I understand what if we have a bad phone call that day, right? Mm-hmm. We have to keep that in mind as adults. So when I tell them, one of my rules was, because I would know all the spots off camera on the facility. So I said, listen, if there's an issue, you call me. Okay. I don't care if you're in a different place on the facility. You can tell whoever you're around that you want to talk to us. I would take them to one of these spots that I call my office, right? Off camera. And instead of them hitting somebody else and causing them an extended sentence or going off on the wrong person, the wrong staff member, I welcomed it. And again, it's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing because I understand that bad phone call might have had an effect on you, right? Your homie back home might have just got killed, whatever the case is. I understand things that happen. You can't process those feelings, those emotions as a grown man can sometimes, right? And listen, some grown men out there, some of y'all at worse than some of these young men. I'm just saying. But that's one of my rules, and that's why I did that, because I'm better equipped to deal with that stuff. I understand it more. And I've had kids, young men swing on me, and we got physical with it. But it gave them an opportunity to get that frustration out. And that's what I wanted. And then after that, we processed. We talked about what happened. Again, that reflection we talked about earlier. I think that's a key component to, again, leveling up, maturing, understanding your weaknesses or strengths. What can I do better in? If I'm in that same position, how can I, react better the next time I'm in that position? That's why we call it processing, right? But I feel that's important because that's reflection. But that was just an example of one of the rules. And it's pretty amazing how you can overcome so much in your own personal life, like I did, and turn that around and put that to good use.
You have to.
You have to. I mean, are you going to reach everybody? No, you're not.
It's not your job to reach everybody, though. Like there's people this podcast reaches. There's someone listening in right now that's like, man, I can really relate with what he's saying. And then there's somebody that might go in and be like, why be, like you said, too sensitive? Yeah. There's too sensitive people that listen to the podcast too,
there are. But guess what? They listening.
Yeah, everybody takes something, and then you get your one little area. You got to give back to what matters. I had Wesley Morris. I don't know if you got a chance to check that episode out.
I didn't check it out yet. I apologize.
But no, it's fine. He went back to, long story short, he drove his bike 470 miles to South Carolina to speak to donors of at-risk youth to a program. So to speak to the kids, to speak to the donors. And it's like,
I'm going to have to check that out now.
Yeah, you have to give back in your way. Let's just say, even if you had $1 million, you can't donate to every single charity and say, I want to fix everything. But if, let's say cancer runs in your family and that's something near and dear, you lost someone, God forbid, it makes sense why you would put your money, your efforts there,
Absolutely, 100%.
Super kudos. So now you took the structure, discipline, accountability, and you moved towards a career in a federal career?
So I went from there. I went back to school. I had my daughter. She was born in actually 2012. So I was working full-time, going to school full-time, and then watching my daughter till about 12:30. And then I take her to daycare, and then I would go to work. So it was a lot on my plate. But if you want to do something, if you want to be great, if you want to level up, if you want a better life, it requires sacrifice.
Right.
I had to sacrifice going out. I had to sacrifice time with my friends. And I really, and looking back at it, I don't think I really sacrificed because my friends knew what I was doing. So whenever time we had, we kicked it. You know what I mean? But they knew I was grinding. So, that structure, discipline, accountability, man, that comes from a long line of obstacles. I mean, your podcast is called I Will Not Lose. Mm-hmm. And ironically, that was my attitude back then. I ain't going to lose. You ain't going to keep me down. And you got to have that mentality. Whether you know it or not, I promise you eventually, if you keep going, you're going to eventually realize that is your attitude. Case in point, man, when someone told me I couldn't do something because I wasn't always the strongest or the biggest or the fastest, right? But I'm all heart, baby. You know what I'm saying? You ain't keeping me down. For those of you out there, Tony and I had a little exhibition, if you will, and that was a good time, man.
Throwing around some jiu-jitsu and wrestling moves
with some boxing, yeah. So it was kind of, yeah, that was a fun time. It was a walkthrough, guys. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it at that. For those of you who are watching me trying to target me, it was a walkthrough. Those of you watching it don't understand that more. But
no, and for my old heads that still love to compete, we were on the phone the next day, like, oh man, my back just.
Yeah. Well, we walked it through and we still heard him. What's going on, guys?
That's good though.
But it's you got to have that mindset, and having all heart. It's a mindset. That's all it is. You know, I hate to use this because I think it's so corny, but it's the Rocky theme. You know what I'm saying? You know, what do they say? It's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about can you get back up, right? Somewhere along those lines. And there's no such thing as an L for me. I'm sorry, there's not. What I referred an L that everybody else would refer to, I referred to that as a teaching moment. You can even say a mistake. But regardless, whatever way you call it, you learn from that and you apply, just kind of like how I was explaining how I process with these young men when I worked with them. I process with myself, you know, and I value my rude, my upfront, my blunt friends because they check me when I need to be checked. And I need that. We all need that. So if you guys out there have a friend that is very outspoken, cherish that, man. You hold on to that friend, male or female, it don't matter. If you're lucky, you got both, right? Because sometimes you need a female point of view in certain things.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about relationships, you know, even though that may help, but having that real person by your side is important, man. And also I want to say that if you're big on family, like I am today, if it wasn't for my daughter, I wouldn't be here today. 100%. She changed me. I was a wild man back then, crazy. But seeing her born was the proudest moment in my life. And when I cut that cord and she gave me that smile right out the gate, that was it for me. Like it. I don't want to say it softened me up, but it was reality check. Like, it's not about me no more. This is what it's about, my daughter. This is my legacy. And I got to give to her everything I've gone through and learned, I got to instill in her. And I said, I got to be honest, man, 11 years, she's a spitting image of me, but the best qualities of me when I was younger and even now.
Yeah.
And there's a saying that, I prepare today while others do nothing. So I am better prepared when others start preparing. If you ask her just the first two words, she will finish that term. She will finish that sentence for you. So I'm glad that's instilled in her. And it's very important to me for her to realize that, because if you don't know, a lot of us, we don't know our full potential. And sometimes you got to put yourself in uncomfortable positions to level up. Right? To be the best version of yourself. You got to challenge yourself. Otherwise, where are you going in life? Professionally or personally, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that ties back to structure, discipline, and accountability as well, right? Because being uncomfortable is a teaching moment, right? For all of us, no matter what you're in. And I think I kind of got off track there, so I apologize, Tony. But I think we were talking about structure, discipline, and accountability there, and having the heart, right? To overcome any obstacle that's thrown your way. And people out there, you sell yourself short too many times when you give up. There should be no quit in you, period. Keep pressing forward no matter how tough it gets. I can't tell you how many times I've hit rock bottom in my lifetime, numerous times, whether I knew it or didn't know it at that time. But you got to be willing to keep going. Take the punches, roll with the punches, right? Slip, jab, move, dance, right? Mm-hmm. What did Muhammad Ali say? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. That's it, baby. Man. You got to come back, bring it back, man. Don't let life smack the shit out of you. Like, get back up, keep fighting. Enjoy the journey is what I'm saying, right?
That's all I preach, man. That's all I preach all the time. I mean, I don't like to get to the end. I'm so... Like Gary Vee talks about the clouds and the dirt, and like there's the part that people see, that's the clouds, that's the you flying on the plane to the convention and having fun and doing stuff like that. You know, they see you fly to Clearwater, Florida, but then they don't see in the basement cutting clips, like trying to make sure that this is going to hit by the deadline and making sure you have a consistent schedule. It's like that's the dirt, that grind. Yeah. I get so addicted to the dirt. This is why I know I'm going to be fine, because I will grind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just like what I appreciate about you is fast forward when we worked on the podcast and getting everything started, you're like, I got to learn this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can't have the first thing you said to me was, I need a whole team. And I was like, you're going to get there,
Yeah.
but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. You got to start and pave the way. And
Yep.
you being a natural leader, somebody's going to come on to it and help and want to take it
Right.
to the next level. And you start filling in those pieces and go from there. But,
Absolutely.
it was really interesting that heart, and just my point, what I was getting at is my first impression of you, like, all right, I'm going to go and learn. Now, fast forward, we've known each other for a few months now.
Yeah.
Maybe going on a year, but you figure, you've learned so much. Like, you produce this podcast all on your own. All the growth is organic. You manage a Facebook community. You're printing shirts. You're going out and flying and meeting with sponsors. You know what I mean? Like, you do what a lot of people want to check off. A lot of people want to be podcasters. They want to live that podcast life,
Yep.
and they want their voice to be heard. You've been able to amass 30, 40. I mean, you could fill an arena. If you took everybody who's downloaded a podcast and not even the people, that's just downloads. There's people that listen to it. You could fill an arena.
Right.
And have everyone sitting in there listening to you speak, man. Do you ever take a second to just reflect? Like, I know it's all about grinding, and I don't, but do you ever take a break and kind of like reflect on it?
I do once in a while. It's funny you said that. It's a good way of putting that. And you're right. That's a lot of people that we could do something like that. And I have a 5-year plan written down at home. So for everybody listening, I think it's important. I know you do this. You have check-offs. I have a 5-year plan. And in that 5-year plan, I have short-term and long-term goals. And as I go along, because I'm sure you notice, the most important factor if you're going to podcast is just take action. You're not going to have it perfect up front. If you're trying to be perfect, you're never going to launch. Just fucking launch. Get it done and then learn as you go. That's the most important thing. I'm still learning and twisting and adapting to where this journey is taking me. The people will speak. The people will tell you what they like, what they don't like. You're not going to please everybody and cater to every single one of your listeners out there. And that's okay. Just do it. But yeah, I do reflect. And part of my thing on my 5-year plan is I want to have a convention. I want to have a fed up convention when we have guest speakers. Right. It's going to be great. It's like our own quote unquote TED Talk. But for the nation, for my listeners out there, I refer to them to as Fed Up Nation. It just kind of grew into that. I didn't start with that in mind.
Before we get to the convention, go on that for a little bit. Tell the listeners what Fed Up is, how you came to put it together. We didn't get to your career as a federal employee, but
so when I left the running boot camps and stuff for adjudicated youth, and listen, I don't know if you guys know, but shout out to Hassan Batts. Promising Neighborhoods. Him and I worked together for a little bit before he finishes his doctorate and everything, and started going with that project. Shout out to Mr. Batts, man. I appreciate you. Much love and respect out to you. Keep doing your thing. And gun violence here now in town, man. Keep doing your thing, Batts. I love you, man. But after I left there, I applied with the United States Postal Service out of shits and giggles. I didn't think I'd get accepted. I was like, whatever. They hired me. I got in the intake. I took the score. I got a call, and I started in 2015. So fast forward, I got injured on a job, tore my rotator, my short head bicep, and my labrum. So I tore those 3. Didn't know it at the time. Worked through the holidays. That was in actually 2020. I got injured. So I believe it was July 2nd of 2020. If I got that date wrong, I apologize, but it's definitely July of 2020. Worked through the holidays. And all this, ironically, is what opened up my eyes and why I started Fed Up. Because when I got injured on the job, that's when shit started changing for me. We talk about people being passive aggressive and how we have cancel culture today, right? And how society has grown into what it is today. I think we digressed. We didn't progress. I think we took a step backwards.
Okay.
So when I got hurt and I got back into limited duty, I was being targeted. I was being retaliated against. And this is where that wisdom and that maturity and that leveling up comes into play. If I didn't go through everything I went through up to that point, I wouldn't have been as equipped and ready to deal with what I was about ready to go through. And that was being targeted, retaliated against, whether it be from coworkers, even management, the agency. It's a very toxic and hostile workplace, even before you get injured. But when you get injured, it's twice as bad. I think you and your audience knows I'm pretty much an outspoken person by now. I had to check myself because I knew I had a federal disability put in. So I had to watch because obviously if I get fired and now we're in a different territory here, right? So I had to watch. So I felt like I was being censored in a way. And that was rough for me to handle because that's not me. That's not in my nature. It's not my character. If I have a problem with you, if you got a problem with me, let's handle it, you know? And listen, I'm not saying let's go out on the dock and have a fist fight. Now, if it gets to that and you cross that line, you better be prepared because I'm not going to let you lay hands on me. But if you want to talk about something, let's talk about it. You understand? And that was the biggest thing for me was to be censored like that. But in going through everything that I did and shutting my mouth, right, and just taking it, I documented everything. Great report writing skills that came to me. I guess I kind of had that. I was always a good writer. I spoke well for the most part. But I knew documenting everything would have been important. And I had a 2.5-year file of everything, and it was going to go somewhere. Then I got my acceptance for my disability. So I didn't follow through in those 2.5 years. I let it be and I let it rock and I carried on my life. I removed myself from that toxic and hostile environment. I won. You know, I will not lose, brother. That's it. You know, but it was, and I'll do honesty in going through that, which was a tough time for me. Some people might have handled that better, and that's fine. But for me, it was tough because it's hard for me to not stand up for myself. Not even that. You can't defend yourself. I'm talking verbally, obviously, like the attacks on your character and integrity. You had to shut up because you deal with a lot of passive aggressive people. So when you're a type A personality like we are, right? And you go and, hey, you must go out on the dock. I want to talk to you real quick. Meaning I'm trying to remove you from the audience, the coworkers from the workroom floor. And I want to get to the bottom of this. What's your problem? You got a problem with me? Let's talk it out. If you don't like me, listen, all good, brother. Keep it moving. But I'm not going to let you sit here and badmouth me like this. So, but even in doing something like that, they'll flip it and, you know, hey, you want to go outside? What's that translate to?
Yeah.
Right? You want to swing? You want to go blows? Right? You got to go fisticuff. So you got to watch yourself because these passive aggressive people treat you as the aggressor. So it was a double-edged sword for me. But it was humbling because I needed that. You know, I'm a true firm believer. I don't know where everybody stands on their faith and on their religion. I'm not going to make this about religion. Whatever or whomever you believe in, that's great. Okay. But for me, it taught me that you don't always, number one, have to be right. And you don't always, again, it comes down to control what you can and don't worry about what you can't control. And I learned that going through those tough times. And I think God put me through those tough times to teach me that. But yeah, that's kind of led into the podcast because I went months without pay when you're injured on the job. And you're going to remember the federal sector is a bit different from the state. So OWCP, Department of Labor, it's a long process. And I think it's set up to it's for us to fail and for us to quit and give up. It's very tenacious and
tedious stuff.
Very tedious.
Very long.
And without going too much off the cuff here, but the toxic and hostile work environments is one thing, but now you have federal code of federal regulations, CFRs, right? It's federal law. When management breaks this law and they're not held accountable, but the minute we step out of line, we're retaliated against, we're disciplined. The chips are stacked against us, right? People are scared to speak up. They're scared to report an injury. Why? Because they're scared of being retaliated against or they're going to get fired. Fuck that. You report that injury. I mean, you're doing it. For those of you that don't know, like a letter carrier, which is what I was, a city letter carrier. There's not a lot of professional athletes that would do that job. Our job, and I'm not just saying this for, hey, be nice to your mailman, but just to give the public a better understanding of what we do as letter carriers. Some of us walk 10 to 13 miles every single day, lifting, bending, stooping, simple grasping, fine manipulation, climbing steps, thousands of times a day. From casing our mail to delivering it, whatever the case is. You add that up over a couple years. That's a lot. We put in work just as much, and if not more, than some professional athletes. And there's some professional athletes who will tell you the same. Like they wouldn't do our jobs for that reason. And that's not to take away anything from them. They're in great shape, but so are mailmen. Our hearts are great. You know what I'm saying? When I say hearts, I mean medically, health wise, right?
Yeah.
Because some of us can be assholes at times.
Mm-hmm.
But in saying that, when you get injured on the job, it just causes a headache. There's a reason why I always say the most painful thing isn't an injury, it's the process of going through that injury. That's the most painful thing. So I created Fed Up, this platform, because the amount of shit that we got to deal with, and the people are scared to speak up. I wanted to give the people a voice. I wanted to give the people a platform. When I say the people, I mean all federal employees. I'm postal. I'm retired from the Postal Service, but it comes down to we all deal with somewhat similar issues when it comes to work injuries. But I do believe that the Postal Service is the worst federal agency out there. So my platform, Fed Up, it's a podcast that's for federal employees, by federal employees, hosted by me, a retired federal employee. You know, whether you're fed up with the mistreatment from your agency or management, the misrepresentation or lack thereof from your federal union, and that can be at a national or a local level, right? And basically the unjust and broken system, whether it be the Department of Labor or our agency as a whole, that we deal with on the constant regular. I mentioned the toxic and hostile work environments earlier. That's a key component. But there's also what's happening out there is there's a lot of collusion and corruption that's happening between these entities, these organizations, if you will, and agencies. Without saying too much, because I don't want to get into some legal obligations here, so we'll call it alleged, right? There's a lot of stuff out there that happens that our own members don't know about, federal employees aren't aware of, let alone the general public, right? So that's why I do what I do, to give the people a voice, to help them, give them options for their particular situation. I've been helping federal employees for about 4 years now, give or take. So when I started the podcast last July, it's like, this is fun to me. I enjoy doing this. So that's what led me to start the podcast. And I would have never expected it to be where we're at today. You talk about being humbled again. Once again, I'm feeling humbled. When it's a very thankless job to do what I do, or for anybody out there that does what I do, just maybe not on the extent of what I'm doing or on my platform, who still advocates for federal employees. I applaud you. Keep doing it. We need more people like you. We're too divided. You know, there's a reason why I say united we stand, but divided we fall. You need to make something, without getting political here, because I can't stand politics. Fuck politics, man.
Yeah.
It's political. A lot of this shit is political, and the only way you're going to change anything, whether it's that or something else in your agency, for yourself in your own office, because of management, you have to be on the same page. Stop throwing each other under the bus. If you see something, write a fucking witness statement for an employee, right? You're not ratting on somebody. You're not snitching. What's that got to do with anything? Because I guarantee you, when that wrongful, unethical, or even illegal, that's right, even illegal at times, when those wrongdoings happen to you as a person, you're going to be sitting there in the dark looking for help as well. Or how come you saw this? Can you write me a witness statement? And another person is going to say no. So witness statements are huge for us. That's why I say that. So it's important that we all band together and, fight the toxic and hostile work environments that we do, man. But that's why Fed Up is here, man. I believe that not me. First off, when you say, you'll never hear me say I, it's about we. And it's pretty much me that does the editing, the recording. Mike Fox, shout out to Mike Fox. He was my editing guy early on. but it was too much for him. So I had to learn everything and do it myself so he can have the peace of mind, because he had his own podcast stuff going on. So I didn't want him to feel that pressure. That's why I learned. But it's just me doing everything. You know how it is. And it's a thankless job, like I said, but when I get the text messages, the phone calls, the emails, the Facebook messengers from people all over this country thanking me for their particular situation. Hey, I got this approved. Thank you so much. Hey, you helped me with this. Thank you so much.
That's fire.
It's rewarding.
Yeah, man.
It motivates me more to keep doing what I do, because I guarantee you feel like this sometimes. You get it. I don't want to say a funk, but you're like, I got so much to do today, bro. Damn,
Every single day.
Every
single morning.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Yep.
But what keeps you going?
What keeps me going? A couple of things. I list everything out. I actually schedule breaks. I'm so bad at taking breaks. I schedule like, okay, on this night, I'm not going to do anything but decompress or whatever. And then I usually end up using that time to write lists for what I'm going to do. But honestly, I really believe that boredom is the devil's playground, or what do they say? Idle hands is the devil work.
Idle hands are the devil's workshop.
Something like that. It might as well be. That's me to a T. Like any time in my life when I've been, I've been unemployed. There's been times when design work has been down, but I'm a mess for myself. When I have structure, when I have stuff to do, when I lay my head down on the pillow at the end of the night and think, okay, I didn't get everything done, but the list was insurmountable and I got through that, and I'm going to wake up the next morning, I'll be up at 4:35 cutting clips for a few hours before I go to work. Like it's I don't know what it is inside of me, but like shit just has to look good. It has to be right. And that's not even being a perfectionist. You know what I mean? Like you could rush something and still have it look good, and you could take just as long and have something look just as good.
Absolutely.
But I care a lot about integrity. I care a lot about reputation.
Yes.
My wife, shout out to my wife, Nika. She's a huge hard worker. She's a teacher in the Allentown School District, but shout out to all the teachers out there.
Yes, sir.
My sister included. There's a ton of work that goes on with it. So she'll be working late. I'll be working late, and I don't know. Then we got driven kids. So it's just the way we're wired. Like you said, type A personality. I'm just not okay with mediocrity.
Right.
I'm not okay with now breaks are one thing when you have to take a break, but if you have stuff to do and you're wasting time or scrolling social or something, like that's you gotta nip that in the bud. You gotta be accountable, like you said, and realize, okay, I'm not doing something. That's why the lists are so important.
Absolutely.
You can see what you got done. It's very easy to get a lot done and feel like you got nothing done. But the little stuff, okay, pay this bill, make sure you do this, call this person, do that. You know what I mean? Even sometimes in our own follow-ups, I haven't been the best with that. So I make sure I write it down. Like, okay, Thursday, I'm going to follow up with Ron, see if we're still good for Friday. Like, and then next thing you know, you're productive. You don't even realize it. I still feel like I'm putting as much effort as I did a year and a half ago when it was taking me 3 times as long to cut an episode. I feel like I'm still putting the same amount of effort, but little pieces got easier, got cleaner and stuff like that. New technologies come out and you just kind of stay up on it.
Brother, that's one area you're ahead of me in. You're excelling in.
What's that?
You are the man when it comes to all that stuff, man. Let me just say that. I'm still learning. For me, this is foreign knowledge. So thank you for all you do and for all you help me with. And I appreciate you. I think
I'm gonna help you with. Like
exactly.
There's plenty of stuff going on. We gotta talk after the podcast. There's things we could do for each show and stuff like that. But definitely check out Fed Up. It's on all streaming platforms. It's an audio only podcast, so you're not gonna find it on YouTube just yet. But it's a whole movement. Shout out to the Facebook community. Fed Up. Is it just Fed Up on Facebook?
It's just Fed Up on Facebook. The podcast is Fed Up with Ron Speakman.
Got you.
Yeah.
Make sure they check that out. Is there any, how else can people find you? You just want them to check the podcast out? Do you have any social?
So I'm still learning. That took me a little bit to learn Facebook on the professional side of things, right?
Yeah.
So I'll be on TikTok and Instagram, Twitter, well, X now, whatever the hell they call it. We're going to be growing in that aspect. I'm going to rely on you to help me with that as well.
Yeah, we'll do it.
And again, for any podcast platform out there, Spotify, Google Cast, which ain't even Google no more. It's something else now. Apple Podcasts. I'm on Podbean. That's my main platform, but I'm on every platform out there. Pocket Cast, Castro. I mean, Player. Is it Player FM?
It might be.
FM
I don't know.
Player or something like that. Just type in your favorite app and that you listen podcast on, and you should find it. So
I know I was getting hits off Geo Savan for a while. It's like an Indian podcast network. So you gotta get yourself out there, and that's what I think is so crazy. A couple things I want to say in closing. I respect you so much for not just laying down when problems occur, and not only overcoming the problems, but then going back and saying, I'm going to help fix that problem.
Yeah.
That's insane. That's crazy.
I
You not
that.
only did it with the youth, you're doing it now with the podcast. Who knows where it comes from there? So I really respect that.
I appreciate that, man. Absolutely. The same amount of love is for you as well, because if it wasn't for you early on, I wouldn't have been so quick to the launch. I eventually would have launched, but not as quick without you being there by my side. So I appreciate you. And to anybody out there who's thinking about starting a podcast, just do it, man. There's no such thing as a perfect plan, let alone, even if you had a plan, forget about being perfect. Your shit's going to change so much. Just roll with it.
That's why I was laughing when you were like, because I remember you had like 10 episodes before you dropped.
I did. I had them all recorded. And ironically, the first intro episode, which is about me, a little bit about me, I go a little bit more in depth than what I did here. Not too much. It's more generalized. But I also talk about why I created Fed Up, and then I go into toxic and hostile work environments. That episode, the intro episode, wasn't recorded until after like that 10th episode. Because I knew it had to drop. It had to be fire. It had to have a great introduction.
Yeah. So
I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about me. Because in doing so, if anybody out there is looking to do a podcast such as like I'm doing, where you're, I don't want to say taking on the man, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
You're taking up a fight, any kind of fight.
Power or whatever.
If you're going to have anybody come at you, target you for anything because of standing up and fighting for the rights of others, I highly recommend you talk about yourself. Talk about yourself. I did that intro episode the way I did because, listen, we all have mistakes in our lives that we've made, but no one's perfect, right? So I figured if I put that out there, it's kind of like the old Eminem battle. This is ironic, I'm Caucasian. I'm talking about a Caucasian rapper here. This is nothing to do with that, but the movie
8 Mile.
Yeah.
Well, tell them all about yourself.
Exactly.
Tell these people something they don't know about me.
Exactly. So I thought I'd put that in there because I am being targeted against. There's people out there who don't like me, who have a power in whatever position they're in, who can cause problems for me. And I'm not looking for any problems. I don't start nothing, there won't be nothing. But I wanted to be proactive. So that's my whole point of saying that was anybody out there who you're going to do a platform like I'm doing, think about that. Put yourself out there. Are you going to have people out there say this, say that? Yeah, it comes with the territory, man. Don't respond. Again, control what you can, not what you can't. Because guess what? They active. They watching you. I don't care if you're not going to say something bad about me. I mean, obviously I'm here for all love and the right intentions. And for the most part, I'm getting that love back. But for all the haters out there and the people who are literally targeting me, that's why I started that episode. So I just thought I'd share that with the people out there who might want to start the same kind of platform that I'm doing. So think about it, take action, put yourself out there, and make it harder for them to say shit about you.
People are going to follow in your footsteps. There's going to be other content off the same concept. There's going to be 7 Fed Up minis, but you're always going to be leading the way with that stuff. And even if you don't, let's say somebody comes with a bigger budget and they see money in getting people to listen. First off, the people will read right through it.
Yeah.
Your show's authentic, has been from the start, and will continue to be. So even sponsorship's not going to change that. That'll be dope, man. I'm excited to see the influence you drop. This is going to drop hopefully before July 20th. We got a few minutes left before time is up. What do you think about Mike Tyson, Jake Paul?
I'll watch, but I'm not. Listen, I'm with Mike Tyson all day, man. I think Jake Paul's a fool, man. Tyson can still cause damage. Yeah. So
you just going based off because it's Iron Mike?
Nah. He still has it in him. He's still a killer.
What, 57? Yeah.
Yeah, he's still a killer. And if you watch that, I'm
Roy
sure
Jones.
Yeah. Listen, he held back on a couple of those blows, and a couple of times he didn't even throw the blow. He would have hurt Roy Jones. I love Roy Jones. Those are my two favorite fighters right there, Roy and obviously Mike Tyson. Mike still has it. Now it's just about if he can take it like he used to, right? I'm sure they'll have something like you mentioned earlier, like a headshots or something like that. Or,
like a knockout clause or something like that. And I don't know, man. First off, what I have to say about it, I think it's amazing that Jake has brought so much attention and conversation around the sport of boxing, which, let's be honest, was dying. It's classic.
Yeah.
But how many fighters are actually, you know what I mean? How many times does Canelo fight? How many times are you having these big epic moments?
Right.
But yet you have a ton of belts. And this is no disrespect. My family comes from boxing, but you have so many different belts. And so anytime you turn on the TV on a Saturday, there's a title fight going on. It's insane, but yet fighters aren't getting the purse that, Mike's going to get for this. Yeah. Mike's going to get the bag for this. Yeah. And so it's interesting because of the fact that you don't know if they have these clauses or back ends or what the paperwork looks like. You just have to look at it as for what it is. It's entertainment. Like I said, it's almost like WWF, but it has me excited. I mean, it's better than him fighting someone else. Like, I don't know about the greatest event in boxing history, but who knows, man?
Who knows?
It can't end bad because if Jake knocks out, everybody's going to go nuts. If Tyson gets knocked out, everyone's going to, even if it just goes to decision.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people want to see that, but who knows, man? We'll see if it's scripted. This is, I'm going to try to air this right before so we can do our predictions so we could be wrong all the way, either way. I'm not a gambling man, but if I were betting, I'd probably put my money on Jake.
Yeah. And I'm going to go Mike.
You would put money on Mike?
But I want to be clear here. The way boxing has been going, I'm not a betting man no more. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
I feel like the scales are tilted. The outcome's already...
Isn't that the only sport you could bet on yourself?
I mean, there's other stuff you can bet on, right? I mean, it's legal now,
like
right?
bet on, I guess, gambling. I don't know. Like, I'm totally not a gambler, but...
Yeah, I mean, I'm not either. I stay away from that stuff. I like my money in my pocket where it's at. I might make a bet with you or somebody, a friend or something, but...
No, I've been to the casino and I'll put like the where you could spend 5 cents for a slot or whatever or something like that. And then I've heard people that are like, oh, they play cards because there's more. Like I love probability. I love the idea of probability, but knowing what I know about probability, you ain't winning.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Ain't winning gambling. But
can I say one more thing about the podcast?
Yeah, we can go over an hour. We're at 55, ironically.
It feels like I was here 20 minutes, bro.
I know.
I just want to say to the public out there that the Fed Up podcast is, I want to make the public aware of what's going on because I feel like it's important. I always ask 3 questions, usually at the end of my interviews with certain guests from all over. And that's to make anybody who has a position of power in society, whatever their position may be, a political news reporter, a politician, wherever your Congress or Senate, governor, whatever you are, if you have that type of position and you can help us make the change and you're actually listen to Tony's podcast, which is great, by the way. I want you to understand that our intentions are to get the public support for what's going on behind the scenes. We have carriers going months, sometimes even years without pay. They're losing their homes. They're losing their jobs. They're going homeless, right? and some even take their lives. Naturally, you can see why that's important to me just from my upbringing and how I was raised and everything I've been through. So it's personal for me also because I've been through it. If I didn't have that fighting spirit, I wouldn't have made it through, to be honest with you. But there's a lot of people who don't have that. And that's why I do what I do for those who can't voice their opinions, who can't speak up, who are scared to. But we need your help. We need the public support. And we also need those in power to help us. We need, again, it comes down to recognize there's a problem. You have to first talk about it and get uncomfortable talking about these things. Do these things happen in other, like in state jobs and other private sector? Sure. But the totality of what's happening, it's at a larger scale when you're in a federal agency with a federal union as a federal employee, because at the end of the day, they're breaking federal law, management, your agency. Eventually, I'm a big firm believer in karma, and what you put out there will eventually come back to you. But that's all I wanted to say was this is the purpose of Fed Up going public, because right now it's just on federal employees all over this country, and FBI, bank examiners, IRS, post office, TSA. We deal with some of the same problems, some more than others, but the biggest similar problem is the on-the-job work injuries. But Postal Service, something needs to be done, and I talk a lot. You'll hear me if you listen to my episodes to Fed Up. It's not just Department of Labor, no WCP. It's our agency. It's our own union. Without saying it too much, I'll let you guys check it out yourselves, but we need your help. That's all I want to say. We need the public support to help push and to lobby for this change, if you will, right? Again, I'm not a political person. I'm sitting here saying lobby and lobbyists, and I can't believe I'm saying it, but we need the help and we need the support. If you look back to the Great Postal Strike in 1970, that was huge. We're not allowed to strike, right? And I don't want to talk about strike and freak anybody out. It's in Article 18 of our contract. We can't strike. It's federal law. It's a felony, right? Do you think that stopped the strikers of the Great Postal Strike in 1970 who, without that strike, we wouldn't have collective bargaining today the way it is in our unions? That was big for us. But again, being that we're divided a lot, we need to solidify our solidarity and unionize. But we need your help. We need your help. We need your support. And that's why I wanted to go public with this. If you want to know more, if you have questions for me, you can reach me at one.fedup.podcast@gmail.com. Reach out, but we need your support. Please like, follow, share the podcast. Join the Facebook page, Fed Up. We just need your support, man. I know that's a mouthful. I apologize, man, but I just wanted to be clear on why we need your help, because there's a lot to make change on. So,
well, hopefully this falls on the right ears, man.
I hope so. And real quick, I just want to give a shout out to my sponsors, if I can. Dr. Robert Custon from FedHurt. If you're a federal employee and you get injured on a job, he has multiple locations across this country, including Puerto Rico. You can actually go to his website, www.forfedhurt.com. Again, that's www.forfedhurt.com. Look up the location if he's around you, and give him a call. Just check him out. And also, out there, my barber, 5-Star Barbers. They're on Allentown. They're in Allentown on Tillman Street, West Tillman Street, out there by the Domino's, out there by right before PJ Willihan's. But shout out to them and Dr. Robert Custon from FedHurt. So, but yeah, just had to give them a shout out. I appreciate y'all, and stay tuned for more episodes coming soon. So.
Thank you for listening to another episode of I Will Not Lose Podcast. To support the show, visit iwillnotlosepodcast.com. You can subscribe to your favorite podcast player, share the episode link, leave a comment. Your contribution is greatly appreciated. And if you're listening in and can't see the QR code for donation, go to tothedesigner.com/links, and there's instructions to donate up there. Thanks so much.